Part 1. The Symptom of Our Age, the Carnival of Stupidity, and the Exile of Truth. In a time of deceit, telling the truth is a revolutionary act. This timeless admonition from George Orwell, like a lighthouse piercing through a century of fog, has not dimmed with time. Instead, its light today feels more glaring and necessary than ever. But what if I told you that the era we inhabit has, perhaps, gone a step beyond what Orwell foresaw? Here, deceit is no longer the only insidious undercurrent. A more bizarre phenomenon is playing out in broad daylight. Stupidity is not just tolerated, it is celebrated with grand ceremony. Superficiality is no longer a cognitive flaw, but the most coveted passport to acceptance. Have you ever felt a moment of dizzying disorientation? When you unlock your phone, your screen is not filled with profound thought or rigorous debate, but with 15-second carnivals, algorithmically curated just for you. The loudest, most extreme, and most thoughtless voices effortlessly conquer the public square, while those who attempt to maintain prudence and explore complexity amidst the clamor are like stones dropped into the deep sea, scarcely managing to create a ripple. We witness personalities devoid of substance being elevated to pedestals, harvesting traffic, fame, influence, and even leadership, armed with nothing more than exaggerated expressions, provocative statements, and a proud display of ignorance. Think about it. When was the last time a truly deep idea trended? When did a nuanced, multifaceted discussion of a gray area ever go viral? We seem to have grown accustomed to ending potentially deep debates with a single emoji, to dissolving the weight of serious issues with the latest internet meme. We live in a cultural spectacle where a 15-second clip garners more engagement than a deeply researched analysis that took weeks to write, where a carefully constructed persona seems more valuable than an authentic, intellectually deep human being. This is no mere cultural phase, no fleeting trend. It is a systemic shift, a profound, structural transformation. We have built and now immerse ourselves in a world that systematically rewards hollow entertainment and punishes intellectual exploration. Here, clever wits replace logical thinkers. Fast, flashy, and effortless content is assigned greater value than reflective, substantive conversation. We flock, either willingly or unwillingly, to content that requires zero effort to understand and even less effort to question. We believe we are consuming information, but the unsettling truth is that we ourselves, along with our attention, have become the primary commodity being consumed within this vast system. Truth is in exile, while stupidity, crowned and enthroned, presides over a grand, unending carnival. This is the most unsettling symptom of our age. Part 2. The Invisible Hand, the collusion of algorithms, capital, and human nature. This carnival is not without its directors. Behind the stage lights, an invisible yet immensely powerful hand is at work, woven from the cold logic of algorithms, the profit-driven motives of capital, and the most primal weaknesses of our own human nature. First, let us confront the nature of the algorithm. Whether it's TikTok, YouTube, or any platform you immerse yourself in daily, its core algorithm doesn't care about truth. Its sole currency is your attention. Your every click, every pause, every like, and comment is a vote cast within this system. And what best captures attention? Not rigorous logic or nuanced discourse, but the most direct and potent emotional stimuli. Anger, surprise, ecstasy, fear. These raw emotions are the algorithm's favorite fuel. Consequently, a sensational headline, a controversial opinion, a wild conspiracy theory will always propagate more efficiently than a balanced, objective, and comprehensive report. The algorithm, through precise calculation, pushes us into information cocoons and echo chambers where we only hear what we want to hear and see what reinforces our existing beliefs. We feel comfortable, safe, and validated, while, unknowingly, we forfeit our ability to encounter dissent and engage in self-reflection. Next comes the logic of capital. In the attention economy, traffic is money. This means that content capable of maximizing user attention holds the highest commercial value. As a result, performing stupidity has become a high-return business strategy. The persona of the dumb but rich. The influencer who is unfiltered and offensive. They understand that manufacturing conflict and showcasing shallowness is a far quicker path to monetization than sharing knowledge. This strategic stupidity is not genuine foolishness, but a meticulously calculated performance. They are the shrewdest merchants of our time, selling an opiate called mindlessness. And the consumers are us, desperate for a momentary escape from the complexities of reality. And so, we see a fabricated lifestyle, a manufactured online feud, or a flawed success story easily converted into enormous commercial gain through ads, product placements, and paid courses. Meanwhile, those who genuinely create knowledge and disseminate wisdom often struggle to survive in the commercial tide. Finally, and most crucially, is the role of our own innate human desires. In psychology, there is a concept known as the fluency effect, which describes our brain's natural tendency to trust information that is easier to process and understand. In a world of information overload, a world that feels increasingly chaotic and uncertain, complexity itself is a source of anxiety. Simplicity, in contrast, offers a false sense of security and control. A bold slogan, a black and white conclusion, a conspiracy theory that makes you feel, I get it, in an instant. These all serve as shelters in the storm of confusion. Our brains, to conserve energy, are hardwired to prefer shortcuts. The burden of thinking is thus easily cast aside in exchange for an immediate, cheap hit of dopamine. Like junk food, it's quick, tasty, and fills an immediate void, but long-term consumption only weakens the body. The mental junk food we consume today is similarly eroding our cognitive faculties, leaving us with an inability to digest truly nutritious ideas. These three forces, the coldness of algorithms, the greed of capital, and the laziness of human nature, form a perfect feedback loop, a self-reinforcing system that ceaselessly filters, amplifies, and deifies stupidity while marginalizing depth and wisdom. Part 3. The cracks in civilization. From individual drift to societal dysfunction. If the triumph of stupidity were confined to the realm of entertainment, perhaps we could afford to laugh it off. The terrifying reality, however, is that this tide is seeping like a potent acid into every crevice of our social fabric, etching deep and ominous cracks into the very foundations of our civilization. The first cracks appear in the halls of education. The purpose of education, at its heart, is to enlighten minds, to cultivate critical thinking, to teach us how to think, not what to think. Yet, under the dual pressures of pragmatism and marketization, education is quietly being corrupted. The humanities philosophy, history, ethics, the disciplines that train us to understand complex human nature and societal dynamics are dismissed as impractical pursuits, their funding cut, their curricula marginalized. In their place rise vocational training programs and marketable degrees. We tell the next generation to learn what makes money, not what makes them a more complete human being. When our entire educational framework shies away from depth, from the values that cannot be quantified in currency, how can we expect to raise a generation capable of tackling the complex challenges of the future? We are producing highly efficient cogs, but we have forgotten how to cultivate the minds that can design and repair the entire machine. This is followed by the decay of the political sphere. Public discourse was once the arena for debate, dissent, and the wrestling of ideas' difficult path toward consensus. Today, it has degenerated into a battlefield of slogans, emotional reactions, and short-form distractions. Politicians have discovered that a single inflammatory tweet generates far more engagement than a detailed policy paper. Their language becomes ever more simplistic, tribal, and emotional, because this is what the algorithmic logic rewards. The complex art of governance has been reduced to a perpetual campaign of brand management and public relations warfare. We no longer elect leaders, we elect content creators. When facts are replaced by alternative facts, when scientific consensus is challenged by personal feelings, and when policy debates devolve into skirmishes between fan bases, as society's ability to solve real problems is fundamentally undermined. Climate change, public health crises, economic inequality, geopolitical conflict show. Can these intricate issues possibly be addressed in an environment that only has room for simple answers? Ultimately, this erosion reaches the core of our individual selves. Marinated in a constant stream of shallow information, our brains are being rewired. We lose patience, finding ourselves unable to sit through a 300-page book or watch a slow-paced 2-hour film. Our memory atrophies because information is always a click away, negating the need for retention. Our focus is fragmented, shattered by an endless barrage of notifications and red dots. Over time, this cognitive downgrade morphs into a downgrade of character. We become more susceptible to manipulation, more prone to groupthink, and more indifferent to the suffering of others. Because deep empathy, too, requires the energy of focused thought. This is more than just getting dumber. It is a process of civilizational dysfunction. When a society systematically devalues wisdom, mocks expertise, and punishes depth, it becomes like an organism with a compromised immune system, vulnerable to any real crisis that comes its way. We are voluntarily surrendering our most precious weapon, reason, and critical thought in favor of an easy, false, and ultimately destructive certainty. The sands of time are slipping through the hourglass, and we, as a collective, appear to be marching toward a future that is simplified, hollowed out, and ruled by stupidity. Part 4. A spiritual insurgency rekindling the flame of thought amidst the noise. And yet, even in the deepest darkness, there are embers that refuse to be extinguished. In this silent war on thought, a quiet resistance is taking root. It is not waged on the streets, but at our desks. It has no banners, but it flies in every conscious choice we make. This is a spiritual insurgency. You, me, every individual unsettled by the current state of affairs, we are the potential soldiers of this uprising. We need not wage war against the entire system, for that would only exhaust us. Instead, our task is to live differently within it. First, begin by reclaiming your attention. Consciously curate your information diet. Just as with food, your mind requires nutrition. Set aside a sacred time each day to put down the phone and pick up a book, a real book, that demands you slow down and immerse yourself. Watch a feature-length documentary. Listen to a full classical symphony. Engage with things that offer no instant gratification but provide long-term nourishment for the soul. This is not mere leisure. It is cognitive rehabilitation, a way to repair the focus that algorithms have fractured. Second, rebuild authentic connections. Social media creates the illusion of connection, but true intellectual engagement often occurs in smaller, more private, and safer spaces. Find your tribe people who also care about meaning, not just memes. Start a book club. Have a long, unstructured, late-night conversation with a few close friends. Participate in discussions that encourage questions rather than demanding answers. In these spaces, you can safely say, "I don't know," and use it as a starting point for genuine exploration. In these connections, you will find you are not alone. Then, have the courage to embrace boredom and discomfort. Growth, whether of the body or the mind, requires a degree of friction. When you encounter a complex issue and feel confused or frustrated, resist the urge to immediately flee to a simple explanation. Sit with that discomfort for a moment. That is the signal that your mind is being challenged, that it is being stretched. Growth does not happen in the comfort zone, and it certainly does not happen in the algorithmic paradise tailored just for you. Dare to be bored, for it is in the quiet moments of contemplation that the most profound insights emerge. This spiritual insurgency is ultimately about our individual choices. Will you choose to be a passive reactor or an active thinker? Will you chase validation or truth? Will you dare to feel uncomfortable emotionally, but intellectually? Because that is the very essence of growth. Or will you remain in a state of numbing comfort? Humor can be our armor, but it cannot be the cave in which we hide from everything. Irony can be our currency, but when depth itself becomes a burden, we have lost our way forward. We stand at a crossroads. One path leads to a world of infinite simplification and emotional reactivity, an amusement park where we distract ourselves to death. The other path, more difficult, quieter, and lonelier, leads to a life of effort, but one filled with wisdom and meaning. As Orwell suggested, in our time, this quieter path may be the only truly revolutionary act. It begins with you. It begins with the profound questions you are willing to ask yourself. It begins with the precious, non-negotiable effort you are willing to expend in the search for answers. Because in a world that celebrates the superficial, to think deeply is, in itself, the noblest form of rebellion.